Hello, everybody. Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing? Happy Tuesday. Hey,
There we go.
how are you doing?
Good. Let me fix this 1 minute.
I wanna get this going. Hey, everybody. Come on in. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, good, good.
Awesome.
You had a good day today?
It wasn't bad at all.
Oh,
I've
okay.
had I've had worse days. Let's say
Oh,
that.
okay. Oh, well, then that's a good thing. Was it busy or something, or?
Well, I work at a school, and a lot of our students are just getting acclimated with how our culture looks, and that could be a struggle for some kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But this is what is this, like our full year, our second, we're starting our second year of coming back to
Well, it
some,
depends on what school, because some schools did all virtual last year. We
oh,
came back half the year, and
okay,
all of our students didn't come back though.
gotcha.
So it's just a lot of transitions for a lot of our students. That's all.
Yeah. Well, and you know what, I have to remember, I'm all the way here in Texas, and we don't go by the laws of the land. So we've been back in school, and I have to remember that because I went to a conference in Ohio this year, and all the other schools were talking about that same thing you just mentioned, that they hadn't went back to school, and we were shocked, like, oh, well, we've been back face to face. So that okay, now that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Can
Yes.
you
Well,
hear?
I
Hmm.
excited for you joining the live with me today. You know, I had Lakeisha on, and we were talking about using your voice, like in relationships and things like that. And she had made a reference to your book, "What's Butterflies Got to Do with It?" And it was just really a hit, and people were reaching out to me asking more about the book and just saying, okay, well, you should have the author of that book on. And so that's what kind of created that push for me to reach out to you on Facebook and just be like, people want to know more. And even when I posted the story yesterday, a lot of people were messaging me and like, oh my gosh, sis, I please help me, I need the answers. I was like, I ain't got the answers, but Melissa, meet us on IG.
Yes, yes. I'm excited. This will be awesome.
I know. So I am so glad. And so really quickly, I guess, introduce yourself to everybody and tell people like what you do and the work that you're doing.
So my name is Melissa Freeman. I would say for 20 plus years, I have been trying to work with people to build healthier relationships. Like you said, I have a book out, What's Butterflies Got to Do with It? And people can definitely go purchase my book, go get my book. If you go to my website, www.likeitIswithmelissa.com, you can follow all my social medias. You can see the other things that I'm doing. One of the great things I did is I wrote this book, but there's so much more that I am doing. I am an evangelist. I am a mother. I am a wife. I am a author, obviously. I am a relationship coach. I'm a blogger and a singing artist. So if you go to my website, you'll see all these amazing things that I'm doing, but most of them intertwine with relationships.
Okay.
So, yes,
Well,
um,
I'm like, dang, how do you have time to do anything?
I don't have time. I'm just ripping and running.
Yeah.
Also, is there a way to, before we go diving real deep, is there a way to share this to Facebook?
There is not a way to share it on Facebook.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. All my people are going to be asking, like, where you at? Where you at?
Oh no.
It's okay.
They come on IG.
They have IG. I think that they were expecting Facebook. It's okay.
Okay. hopefully they can see that it says on the flyer, it says IG, and then they'll come over. But a lot of people ask me too. They're like, "How can we watch it?" I was like, "Just come on over to IG. That's where we'll be." But
Yep.
it will be saved. I'll share it with you, and then you can send it back out, and they'll definitely want to watch it and support it. But
Awesome.
yeah, I do.
Oh, someone said if you need a virtual assistant, let me know.
She's still look. She can't plug in there. You busy? She's available to help. Look, like you can send her a DM. Where's my blueprint on the back channel? But you know, Melissa, something that's so important is because, like you said, you're also a relationship coach, and you know, I love listening to a relationship podcast. And as I'm listening to these different relationship coaches, you know, there has been one common thread that I've been hearing like on all of the talks, and it's that people are saying that the dating pool has pee in it. And some people are like, don't say that, you know, because they're, you know, you need to look at it from a positive standpoint. What are some things that you can do better to attract the person that you want to attract and attract the love life that you desire? And then some people are going full force and they're like, well, yeah, the proof is in the pudding. The dating pool does have pee in it. So I guess my first question to you is, what prompted you to even write What's Butterflies Got to Do with It?
Oh, that's a great question. So, I mean, I went on my own journey, and that's what kind of produced the book. And I started to recognize that there were some things that I needed to deal with that had absolutely nothing to do with my marriage. It had to do with me. It had to do with the relationship of my childhood, trauma that I've had. It had to do also with just the relationship with yourself. Like, do you love yourself? And all these things, if they're not tackled and you're not unpacking them, you bring them into your marriage.
Yeah.
And so I started just looking at myself. And then after I recognized, like, wow, Melissa, like all these things are helping you, you need to pass this on.
Yeah.
Because it was like a revelation for me. No one gave it to me. It was kind of like God just led me on this path. So then I had the opportunity to write a book. It was during COVID when we weren't going to work. We were at home, and I was like, this is the perfect time to write the book I've been talking about. So I started writing, and then I said, I'm gonna get this done because I had so much to say. But in my book, the purpose of the book is to take people on their own personal journey.
Yeah.
So each chapter, as they read it, it is going to reveal some things about themselves. Because when we think about having a mate, it's not about finding your mate. You need to find yourself. Find out who you are. Find out what triggers you have. Find out about your trauma. It's really about you. So my book starts with you and ends with you. But in between, I talk about the relationship with your childhood, the relationship with yourself, the relationship with friends and family. And then I definitely hone into interviewing, not dating. Okay? Change the language. It is interviewing, it's not dating. And then I go into wholeness because when we think about how we say, oh, I'm single. Well, are you not single? You're whole. And that word single kind of puts this cloud over our head that we didn't accomplish something or we're by ourselves. And in reality, if you've worked on yourself, you're whole, even if you did not get married, even if you do not have a man friend or a woman friend. And so the book will take people on their own journey, but that's what kind of produced the book, me taking myself on a journey and then realizing, hey, people need this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. And I wanted to say too, before we go any further, you guys, if you have any questions that you really want Melissa to tackle in terms of dating, finding yourself, go ahead and put those in the chat and we'll go ahead and get to those. But I guess, Melissa, you know, while everyone is kind of typing in their questions, you know, let's talk about that process, because I did hear you say that the book starts with self and it ends with self. So even as you were, you know, coming up with this process, I guess first let me ask you this: what does the title "What Does Butterflies Have to Do with It"? What does that?
Yes, let's get it. what butterflies got to do with it?
Yeah.
And the answer is absolutely nothing.
Mm.
And we have that, butterfly feeling when we meet someone and we think they might be it. And those butterflies that we feel eventually fade away. It's not something that sustains a relationship. It's not something that is even, I would say, in the process of interviewing is helpful to you because it puts blinders on some things you should recognize. But because those butterflies kind of take over, you are looking at it and you think you found your mate. And so I titled it that, What's Butterflies Got to Do with It? Because that's the question we need to ask ourselves when we're interviewing. And then we need to answer it and say, it means nothing.
Yeah.
So although I went home after a wonderful interview, which the world calls dating, it doesn't mean anything that I had these feelings. I need to sit down and I need to still think about how did this interview go? Do I have more questions? How did I feel? What was my response to some of their questions that made me feel uncomfortable? Do I feel like they're husband material? Like these are questions that you need to ask yourself day one. Do not waste your time. I want to connect it to a natural example. When we go to a job interview and they interview us, you have that one person asking you questions. Really the first time is they want to get a feel of your energy. They want to kind of know who you are, right? And then if they feel good about it, then they call you in for a second interview. And on that second interview, that's when maybe they've asked 2 or 3 people to join them because now they want to see, do you see what I see? Do you feel what I feel for confirmation? But even after that, I know for myself, I've been on interviews where even after that, then they have you do an assignment or they have you come in and prove what they feel and what they see. So it's the same way. Just because you have these great feelings, just like that first interview where you're like, oh, I think I could fit in this company, or that company feels like you're a good fit, it does not matter. You have to go through that whole process naturally. And when you're deciding you want to interview.
Yeah. Okay, so you call it interviewing, and I really like that term, when we're talking about dating. But one thing I will say is that, and I've heard this from men in relation to women on dates, is that it comes off unattractive because it seems like it's an interview. So they're like, what's your favorite color? What is your 5-year goals? What is this? So are there any tips or ways in which we can ask those interview questions, but it doesn't seem like, we're in an actual interview, but yet it's a fun way of still learning how to get to know a person?
Absolutely. Right. So you don't want to treat the interview process like you would do if you're going to get a job. You want to still be pleasant. You still want the person to get to know you, and you want to be personable, right? So I would say that first time, you're really just getting a feel of their energy, right? You sit down, you're sitting down for dinner, you're going to find out little information about them by just having conversation. You can learn a lot by what someone's saying, what someone's not saying, right? So for example, if someone says oh yeah, I have children, and you hear that they have children, you hear this, they have children. Yeah. But in the conversation, they never talk about their children. So sometimes you have to recognize what you're not hearing. That could be a red flag. And so, yes, you want to still be gentle and have that conversation. But I will say this to you. I got to the point where I was done with having small talk per se, or, just going with the flow. Let's see how it goes. And I started asking real questions. And I believe that if a person is looking for their person, if they're looking for their mate, they're not going to be intimidated by questions. They're going to be like, this person is serious about being serious. And if that person's serious, they're going to appreciate that you're asking real questions. But if you're meeting someone who just wants to have fun, the questions will bother them. And I'm not telling people to do anything I haven't done. My husband will tell you. I was like, are you saved? Do you love the Lord? What does that mean to you? I went in. I knew what I wanted, and I knew if it wasn't that, then I had to move on.
Yeah.
So yes, you still want to be personable, but you do need to ask those real questions. We are adults. And
Yeah.
if you're sitting across from someone who's not and their response is negative, then I think that's a problem.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And you know, one of the things that I actually had a little cousin, and she met a guy on a dating app, and they were getting ready to meet up. And I was like, and so she was just asking me, she was like, you know, I really need some tips and feedback on, you know, what to do, how to act, what to say. And so I asked her, I was like, okay, well, what was your conversation on the app before you got it off of the app? And she was like, oh, well, I just met him. And this was less than 24 hours ago. We just connected on the app less than 24 hours ago. And then she moved it. I guess he asked for a phone number. She gave him the phone number. And then he was like, let's go on a date. And I was telling her, you know, when you're really intentional about finding your soulmate, you have to be intentional through the entire process. So even like what you're saying with the interview process. And I was like, when you're on those dating apps, you need to have a standard of, okay, first I want to create a connection on the app. And then I might say, if once I'm comfortable and I feel like we've created a connection on the app, then you can have my phone number. And, you know, once whatever your preference is, if it's texting or talking, you know, you state that, like what your preference is now that you have my phone number. And then once you've had like maybe a couple of phone calls and interactions, then you can determine, okay, now I'm willing to go on a date with you. Because like what you're saying too, like you don't want to waste your time. And you don't want to waste just because like a man finds you attractive, or just because a man is approaching you, it does not mean that, oh, okay, I need to let him occupy my space or occupy my time. And
That's
so
right.
maybe tell us a little bit about what are some tips for creating those connections with people to even see, okay, is this something that someone that I could even want to pursue something with?
I think that takes time. You're not going to find that out in a couple of interviews.
Yeah.
You know, we want to. That would be great, right? If we knew everything in the beginning. But it takes time because you need to see the person when they're angry. You need
Mm-hmm.
to see the person when they're frustrated. You may not see that the first couple of times. So
Right.
although you may be vibing, right, and things may be going well, if you haven't seen the person upset, you don't really know who they are. So I think that, like, I want to say, I'm using the word process because for some it may take longer than others, but I would say be yourself.
Yeah.
Be yourself. And if being yourself is going to be an issue with this person, then you have to question, why can't I be myself?
Mm-hmm.
Did the person say or do something to make me feel like I can't be myself? Or maybe I need to go back to the drawing board. Maybe I have some more work to do. This don't have nothing to do with this person. It's me.
Yeah.
So identifying how you're feeling. But like I said, most importantly, be yourself, because that's how you're going to find out, can this work?
Yeah.
Yes, we put our best foot forward, right? Just like you do it in natural interviews, but still be yourself. If you don't want to eat it, I'll give an example. If you don't want to eat a salad, don't eat a salad.
Don't fake it. Don't fake the
Don't
fun.
listen. You want those ribs, that barbecue ribs? Order those barbecue ribs.
Yeah.
All right. Let that person see you when you eating something like that. You can still be neat and sexy and cute and all of that.
Yeah.
But, don't go, I'm just going to eat a salad. I'm just going to eat a salad. Is that how you really eat?
Yeah.
Right? I'm using that as an example, but there's so many things women do when they go on these interviews. And then later on, it looks like they change, but really just be you.
I
And then that's how you can figure out like where this can go.
Yeah, yeah. I love that you say that. And real quickly, guys, if you have any questions that are pressing that you really want to ask, feel free to put those in the chat as we're discussing. And I think because so many ways I want to go with what you're saying about just be yourself. But I think the first thing I want to do is just be yourself, right? A lot of us are wearing masks. And so a lot of reasons why we're not able to find our soulmate is because we aren't showing up as our full self, right? We're wearing a mask and we're showing our representative, but we're not showing ourselves. And then, we're heartbroken when this guy pulls back or ghosts us or just leaves altogether. but it's because you're putting forth your representative and not who you truly are. And I know a lot of that has to do with the relationship with ourselves. And so I don't know, maybe talk about that. Like, where does this relationship with self start? Does it start with the childhood? Does it start with actually looking at yourself where you are currently? Maybe walk us through some of that process to where women, we can get into a space where we're comfortable being who we really are and ordering that steak or whatever.
So you want to start with the relationship with your childhood.
Okay.
So there are many things that we see, and there's many things that we felt as a young boy or a young girl that was considered the norm for your family.
Yeah.
And doesn't necessarily have to be the norm. Is that how every family functions? Like, you got to start asking yourself these questions. I recommend everybody get a counselor and talk about these things, unpack it to really get real answers. So don't try to unpack on your own. Like, purchasing my book, yes, that's going to start you on this journey. But even in my book, I'm like, get a counselor. Like, unpack these things that you felt when I asked you these questions. So you want to focus on the relationship with your childhood, because there are some things that you saw or how you were brought up that you may think are normal. And then after you get counseling, you recognize it wasn't normal and it wasn't okay, or this is why I am the way I am. Like, you need to find out you, and to find that out is, why am I the way I am? Well, it stems from your childhood. And so after looking at the relationship with your childhood, and when I use the word relationship, because you have this connection with how you were brought up. And sometimes I should say all the time, you mimic what you saw.
Yeah.
So I'll give an example. My mother, she was a stay-at-home mom, had 6 kids. She cooked, she cleaned, she did everything. And I watched her do that and do it gracefully. And then when I first got married, I was trying to do what I seen my mom doing. And I was like, wait, it's a different time. I can't do what she was doing. She was at home. I'm working full time. It has to look different. But for a long time, I beat myself up and told myself, so going back to the relationship with yourself, I'm not a good mom. I'm not a good wife. This is what you start telling yourself. And it's because of the connection from your childhood. And so you unpack that first so that you can get to the relationship with myself. Because once you can identify the things that you have either tried to adopt or the things you tried to shun away, once you can identify that, then you can move on to the relationship with yourself. So what I started doing is validating myself. It's okay if you didn't cook today. You ordered Chinese food, and that's okay. You worked hard at your job. You are doing A, B. I start naming the stuff, like, validate yourself. You are doing as much as you can. But again, you won't get there if you don't do the work about the relationship with your childhood.
Yeah.
But even with the relationship with yourself, like, love yourself. Do you love yourself? Do you take yourself out to eat? Do you buy things for yourself? And when I say buy things, I'm not talking about regular shopping. I'm talking about, I had a long week, I'm going to go get a massage. Like, do you do the things for yourself that you would want your mate to do?
Yeah.
Don't wait for a mate to do the things that you desire. Do it for yourself. Oh, I want some flowers. Guess what? I'm going to go buy my own flowers. Yeah. I'm going to love myself. Yeah. So that when you go into this interview process, you're confident with interviewing, because you're like, I can do it for myself. It's nice you opened the door. I can open the door myself. It's nice you bought me flowers. That's beautiful. I could do that myself. Because it puts you in position to be confident and to be okay with saying no if the person is not for you. Yeah. But again, that's doing the work. And so I do believe that, they coincide, the relationship with your childhood, the relationship with yourself. Absolutely. And that will bring you to the chapter, my 3rd chapter, the art of wholeness. You are whole when you do the work. Yeah. And that's where the confidence comes in. Like, I'm whole. I don't have to have someone. It'd be great to. I don't have to have someone, because I've done this work. I know who I am. I know my quality. I have standards. All these things need to be built up so that the interview process is so much easier. That
Mhm.
when you are in front of someone who you know is not a good fit, you're not going to sit there with low self-esteem, and you're not going to sit there and say, well, maybe they'll change, because they never change. Hear me, everyone hear me right now. They never change. You can't change anyone, but you can change you. You can do the work for yourself. You can work on you so that when you're sitting across from someone and you don't like something, you're like, this will be the last interview. And guess what? You validate yourself. That's okay.
Yeah.
Right? So it is a journey,
Hmm.
but the relationship with your childhood and the relationship with yourself, I recommend everyone to do that before going into interviewing.
Yeah.
Because if you go in broken, if you don't go in whole and you go in broken, you're gonna meet someone broken. You're gonna love someone broken. You're
Exactly.
gonna do broken finds broken. Hurt people hurt people. You need to find someone who's whole too, who's sitting across from you and say, I did the work.
Yeah.
I have a counselor right now, currently still doing the work.
Yeah.
You know, like someone who's serious. You
Yeah.
need someone serious.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so important because it's like what you said. If you're broken, you're going to attract someone else who is broken. And that is so true. And I actually just seen my very own personal life coach hop on, and it's like a part of the journey that I'm working on for myself. And it's like acknowledging, like, I like how you said, what I wrote down is, a lot of times when we're like saying that, sometimes people will say, well, oh, you're proud, or that's arrogance when we say, well, no, I choose me, no, you're not for me, or whatever. But it's like, it's not being proud, it's being confident. And being able, when you're confident in dating, you're going to attract someone else who is confident in dating as well. And it's like, if you have low self-esteem, if you have this baggage, like you were saying too, you're going to end up attracting that same type of thing. And then the question is, do you really want to be with that type of person? And I think one of the things that I've had to realize for myself, and even going through this journey right now currently, is that no, until you learn how to choose yourself, no man is ever going to choose you. So if we're always going around and questioning, well, why am I still single? Why am I this? And, why am I this and that? Like you said, we really got to go back to ourselves. And it's not a bad thing. It's just acknowledging that, hey, I'm out in this dating scene. There seems to be a common occurrence that happens to me within this dating scene where I'm attracting the same type of guy. For me, I've learned, like, it's a 3-month time span of where, like, after 3 months, that's as long as it goes for some reason. Like, why are all of these things happening, right? And it's like, someone even told me last week, they were like, this particular guy I was talking to, they were like, he chose himself. So why are you upset that he chose himself, but you're not choosing yourself? And so, again, how can you ever expect someone to choose you when you never even choose yourself? So I can really resonate with what you're saying about, we really got to do that work on ourselves and ask ourselves those questions. And I guess one of the things I want to know is, what are some of those questions that we can really start asking ourselves to, like, get the work started? Or are some of those questions in your book? That's twofold, because I saw where Where's My Blueprint podcast, she asked, is there a list of questions, like the interview questions that you have in your book? But then also, when we're asking ourselves these childhood questions, are there any questions like that we could start to formulate?
Definitely. And yes to both questions. There are questions in my book, and after every chapter, there's a reflective portion where the questions are there, but then you write your response so that you don't forget, and you can go back to it just in case you don't want to read the whole chapter over. But yeah, so some of the questions definitely you want to ask yourself is, as I was growing up, was I happy? Do I think I was a depressed child?
Mm-hmm.
Did I have friends?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of friends did I choose?
Mm-hmm.
Why did I choose those kind of friends? What were my siblings like? How did they treat me? How did my parents treat me?
Yeah.
Like, and you're really kind of digging into, again, the relationships you had with siblings,
Mm-hmm.
with friends. One that I really think is important that we ask ourselves is, do I like myself now? And if your answer is no, then you have to go back to, why don't I like myself?
Mm-hmm.
What happened as a girl or a boy
Mm-hmm.
that caused me to not like myself? Like,
Yeah.
really, you're just digging and digging and digging
Mm-hmm.
until you get to the root of the problem so
Mm-hmm.
that you can start the work.
Yeah.
Now, again, these kind of questions, if you're really being honest with yourself, can bring you to a place where you start feeling depressed or feeling sad, right? Like if you answer one question, I picked friends who didn't treat me well. Why did I pick those kind of friends? Like,
Yeah.
then you're like, man, I didn't make good choices. Then
Yeah.
like, why did I make good choices?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my siblings never treat me well, and I got used to that. How come my parents never said anything to them? Like, and it just like you just keep going and going, and so you can find yourself feeling a little depressed, a little sad, which is why even in my book I say, if these questions resonated with you or made you feel down or depressed, get a counselor as you're taking yourself on this journey with my book, so that they can further help you unpack
Mm-hmm.
what you're kind of finding out about yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
are finding out a lot about yourself. The first chapter in my book that I even kind of give a warning before they go into the first chapter, like, be ready to have feelings while you're reading this book.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And let's talk about that a little bit, because that's the thing, like what you're saying and what you're telling people is that they're finna do the work. And whenever you're doing the work, the reality is that a lot of emotions are going to come up. And I think that one of the reasons why, it's so hard for us to even get to a place to where we're even equipped to find our soulmate is because we don't sit and actually go through the process. So I guess talk about that. Like, what's the importance of really allowing yourself to feel these emotions and everything that's coming up, and how do you, allow yourself to feel these emotions? Like, what would be the process for that?
You have to accept how you're feeling
Mm-hmm.
and try to come into terms that it's okay.
Mm.
You have to validate yourself when you're having feelings, because your feelings are okay and they're normal.
Yeah.
So, I know for myself, I'll just like kind of tap in. As I watched how my mom like was a mom and how she was a wife, in my mind, I was like, this is what it looks like. This is what it's supposed to be. And like I said before, I kind of like came down on myself, and then I had to recognize like, no, and I had to validate myself. But more importantly, I sat in my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say, okay, this is how I feel. I have to like get rid of these feelings right now. I stayed there because staying there is what helps you not want to be there anymore.
Ooh.
But if you just like try to make everything roll off your back, you're not going to be pushed to do the work. So I stayed there for a little bit, like, I don't think I'm a good mom. Like, where's that coming from? Why do I feel like that? How can I make this better? And so in staying there, what I started doing is validating myself, but then I also started working on me in the sense of like, it's all a mental thing. It's all mental.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's happening. No one's telling you you're not doing a good job, but in your mind, you're not.
Right. Right.
So sitting in that for a little bit so that you can kind of remind yourself, I don't want to be here or feel this way again. And so I think it's important to feel what you feel. I think I said it just like that in my book. Feel what you feel. You feel sad? Cry. You feel angry? Go for a walk and like yell where no one's at. Just like feel what you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to suppress it, because I think that hinders the growth that you can make.
Yeah.
Feelings are so normal, and I think that, I tell my kids at school all the time, and they're like, I'm mad, or I'm frustrated, or I'm aggravated. I'm like, that's good. You know how you feel. That's okay. What can we do when we feel that way? Why did you feel that way? How can I help you fix this?
Yeah.
We can't shun our feelings. So It's a lot, but hold on to your feeling because that's what's going to push you forward. I know it sounds weird. Like if you're sad, yeah, stay sad for 2 days if that's what's going to make you say, I don't want to be in this place anymore. I'm going to work on me.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. And I think that's so important because, and I don't even know, like, where were we or who told us that feeling emotions is a bad thing? You know?
I hate it. I hate it. People, I think that society has told us that. I think society has raised especially our black men to be tough, be strong. You can't show any feelings. You can't cry. And a lot of our black men are raised that way. I believe that a lot of black women who are single mothers had to kind of put on this face because they were trying to be the mom and the father and the dad. And so that they put on that persona too. I think it's society that has told us that. I think we're just now coming to a place where people are like, yeah, feel what you feel. But for a long time, I even remember, like, as I was young, I remember getting in trouble and we would get a spanking. And then my father would say, stop crying. You just gave me a spanking, but you're telling me to stop crying. That makes no sense. Yeah. But that old school way of thinking was not just in my home. As I spoke to friends and family, I'm like, wow, that was in every home that parents were saying, sit down, stop crying. And so if you don't digest that, you'll be in a marriage and you'll never be vulnerable. You'll never be open. Why? Because your parents told you you can't do that. That's not what we do here. Right? So all of again, back to the relationship with your childhood. You gotta look at these things. But I don't know who told us that. I believe society. I believe slavery was a part of it. Like, when we think about when we were enslaved, we weren't allowed to express how we felt. We weren't allowed to speak unless we were spoken to. And sometimes you see that in the homes in black homes where kids can't speak unless they're spoken to. They don't have a voice. That all stems from slavery. So we got to look at these things and then make a shift, make a change, break the cycle. Like, feelings are okay. I got to give you some spiritual. When Jesus went to the temple and seen that they were selling instead of praising God, he flipped that table over. That's some feeling, right? He had some emotions, some strong emotions about what they were doing in the house of God. He said, this is the house of prayer. He had feelings, and this is Jesus who never sinned. So what is that saying? We can have feelings. But Jesus also had feelings where it said Jesus wept. He also cried. He had moments. He had feelings. And we need to embrace ours just like he has shown us in the word that it is normal to have feelings.
Yeah. And I think that's a good way to go into this question that Where's My Blueprint Pod has. And they're asking, how do you educate your clients about feelings when most people cannot identify more than 5 different emotions?
I love this one. Yeah. So I have a feelings wheel. I wish I could get the link and just post it. I can post it when I share it. Okay. It is a feelings wheel, and basically, and anyone listening right now, if you go in and put feelings wheel, you'll find all kind of different feelings wheel. Okay. But basically, it has it's a wheel, and it has the main feelings people say: mad, upset, frustrated, sad. What's the other word? Depressed, I think. And then in that wheel that has those words, there are lines of other feelings that connect to that one main feeling. Yeah. So that you can identify what you're really feeling. So if a student says, I use this at my job, if a student says, I'm mad, say, let's look at the feelings wheel. You're mad, but there's 4 other things that you can feel under this umbrella of being mad. Are you depressed? Are you disappointed? Are you anxious? It's not always just I'm mad. There's a reason why your outburst looks mad. Yeah. But what's under that? What's under the surface of what's really happening? What's that real feeling? And so the feelings wheel is helpful for children and adults. I'm an adult and I have one because sometimes I'm like, I have these feelings, but I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't know why I'm feeling this way. And the feeling wheel just kind of breaks it down and helps you figure out how you're feeling. And oftentimes I know for myself, Most of the time it's I'm frustrated.
Mm.
When I'm sad, I'm really frustrated.
Yeah.
When I'm mad, I'm really frustrated.
Uh-huh.
Like, so identifying how you're actually feeling. So I would recommend that, and I'll definitely put that in the link when I share this, and I'll share it with you too, so people can look at it.
For sure. And I think that's so important, as we're talking about allowing ourselves to feel and to go through processes. And I think this is so timely because I was just listening to a Clubhouse and this lady came off mute and she basically she's experiencing a breakup. She broke up with her boyfriend 2 weeks ago and she was devastated and she was crying and all these type of things. And, she was basically beating herself up because she was like, I shouldn't be here in this space. I shouldn't, be feeling like this and things like that. And what the dating coach actually told her is that we have to be willing to sit in the lowest of the valleys in order to sit. And so a lot of times we don't want to, we want to be on the peak, but we don't want to go through the valley. In the part of the process to get to the peak. And so that is so important. What you're saying is like, we really have to sit with those things. And sometimes those are hard pills to swallow, especially when you have to look at yourself and be like, okay, well, what's in me that's attracting this, or what's in me that is causing this to happen? Because a lot of times we don't want to acknowledge that something is wrong with us. And not saying that necessarily that we don't want to acknowledge it, but it's hard for us to face that. Okay, things that we thought that we had covered up for years. It's interesting how now in our adulthood, our little girl comes back in some type of way and is pulling at us. And one of the things, because I was reflecting, because like I just shared, like I'm not exempt from any of this. I'm actually experiencing a heartbreak right now currently. And one of the things that I was asking in journaling was, how do we learn how to trust our intuition over our heart? Because so many times our body and our intuition is telling us there's red flags. Like what we were talking about earlier within the interview process. Okay, here's a red flag. This isn't, but our heart is just so happy. Those butterflies within us are just so happy. So how can we, women and men, when we have this intuition, how do we learn how to amp up the intuition and maybe quiet our heart so that we can make those right decisions?
I love that. Two things. One, don't get so close where you can't see. When you get too close, that's when you can't see the red flags.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you a demonstration. Let's say I'm going to use my book, for example, right? If I'm trying to read the back of this small print, I can read it really well if I'm like this far away, right? But the closer I get, and the closer I get, and the closer I get, I can't read that now. I got too close. So one thing is don't get too close. That's why what's butterflies got to do with it? Absolutely nothing. Don't get too close.
So when what do you mean? Like,
you allow your heart to be a part of the interview process, and it's not.
Okay.
The interview process is getting your answers.
Okay.
Enjoying yourself, right? But getting your answers. It's not about how your heart should be feeling in that moment. And that can be hard and that can be tricky, especially if you think this person is attractive and you're vibing, right?
Yeah.
But you have to have some sort of control. And so in my book, I talk about right after the interview, don't wait to debrief with yourself because it's about you and how you felt in that interview. And you go home and I have an acronym for red flags. So red just means like it's a warning sign, right? Anything that was a warning. And you literally get a piece of paper and a pencil because you're going to treat it like an interview. And you think about the acronym that I have. So red is obviously something alarming. F, how did you feel? How did you feel? Did you feel secure? Did you feel safe? Did you feel comfortable? Did you feel scared? Did you feel timid? How did you feel? So you're literally like answering that question, how you felt. Then L, what did you hear? Listen to what you heard.
Yeah.
Did you feel like the person was lying? Did you feel like the person was telling the truth? Um, Going back to the example I gave about, like, if someone says they have kids, they never talk about their kids. Like, what did you hear or not hear?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So listen. So listen with your ears and not your heart. What did you hear? And then A, what are the actions that you saw when you were with this person?
Mm-hmm.
What are the actions? Like, did they get upset when the waitress took too long?
Mm-hmm.
Did they make negative comments about how the waitress didn't come 3 or 4 times to the table?
Mm-hmm.
Right? The subtle stuff. It's the subtle stuff. I got to put emphasis on that.
Yeah.
The first couple of interviews is not going to be big stuff. It's going to be that subtle stuff that, oh, you know what? I remember that first and second interview. He was upset with both waitresses, different restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we actually went out, then he was about to fight someone. When we went, like, oh, he was already showing me he doesn't have patience and he doesn't like dealing with people, or he feels like he does have a little pride and he feels like he's better than you. You should have came to my table 5 times. Like that, those subtle signs.
Mm-hmm.
And then G, generate data. Your job is to generate data. So as you come home and you're generating the data, you're writing down every little thing that you noticed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Beginning to the end. He opened the door. He didn't open the door. He said, how are you? Or he said, hello. Like every little thing.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds silly, but after a while, you'll start to see a pattern of who this person is, or you'll start to see who they're not and who
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to be based on the data that you're generating.
Yeah.
And then S, what do you see? So that's my acronym. And what do you see? When you're sitting with the person, do they have dirt under their nails? Like, what do you see?
Yeah.
Did they have boogies in their eyes? Like they look like they didn't even try to wash their face before they came to see you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Were they put together? What do you see?
Mm-hmm.
Don't ignore what you see. Did they come and their clothes were wrinkled?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it sounds like not a big deal, but it says a lot when you're interviewing someone and they present in a way that you can visually see that they're not put together. So that means under that, there's some other things. What else is not put together? Or are you struggling with depression?
Yeah.
Like what, so those are the things that we definitely have to look at. So twofold, don't get too close. Don't let your heart be a part of the interview process. But remember the acronym. What do you feel? Listen to what you hear or don't hear. What are the actions that are taking place? Generate data. And what do you see?
That's good. And I like that because that really protects our hearts to where we're not getting invested too soon. Because I think for people in general in relationships, we're so excited, and we have all these butterflies, and then it allows us to go further faster instead of slowing down and taking the necessary steps that we need to take within the dating so that we're not devastated when after 3 to 4 months a relationship doesn't work. It's like, no, it's okay because you haven't necessarily got invested. Like you said, you haven't gotten too far. And I guess, one of my questions is that as we're collecting this data, what do we do with it? Because I think we hear all the time within dating, you collect the data, you collect the data, you collect the data. But then no one is really telling us like, okay, once you collect this data, what do you do with this data?
So with the data, after however long, I know some people have a cutoff time, like they're like, after 2 months, I'm going to look at my data. After 3 months, I'm going to look at my data. I would recommend at least 3 months because it takes someone a while to really open up and kind of show you who they are. But you're looking for patterns.
Mm-hmm.
If are they always late when they say they're going to meet you? Was there any no call, no shows? Like there will be patterns that you'll be able to see, or just simple stuff like how do you feel when you're with them? It's really important to figure out how you feel. How do I feel when I'm with them? I feel like I really can't be myself. Okay, that's a bad pattern. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And maybe it's you because you're not doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the way they come off, you're like, I feel like if I say this person's going to laugh at me.
Yeah.
Or, say something that will hurt my feelings. So with the data, you want to see patterns.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And with those patterns, then you start seeing character.
Mm.
And with character, you start seeing who they really are. Some things people cannot hide. It will be shown over time. You just got to give it time. The old folks used to say, give it some time. Give it some time. You'll see, give it some time. You know, when you're a little girl, you're like, why are they always saying that? Give it some time. Because they know over time, people don't change. They little by little show you who they are. And when they show you who they are, like Maya Angelou said, believe them. If you're looking at your data and like data shows me
Yeah.
that you don't have patience and you look like you have some kind of anger management issues,
Yeah.
believe it.
Yeah.
Because when you hear women who have been battered, they always say that the relationship started off where they loved him, they love bombed them, they told him, oh, how beautiful you are, all these things. And then that moment when they got upset and they felt comfortable enough, then they put their hands on them.
Mm.
So give it some time. But in the beginning, when you speak to those individuals, they always say, there were little subtle signs, like he would get upset over small stuff like traffic.
Yeah.
He would be beeping his horn and like hold on to the horn like beep. And
Mhm.
I'd be like, what's wrong with you? But okay, he's not putting his hands on me, but he's showing you he
Yeah.
can't control his anger. So
Yeah.
it's always those subtle things. And so with the data, you will see patterns. Believe those patterns because the patterns are character,
Yeah.
and believe what you see.
Woo! I gotta take a deep breath. Inhale it. Because that's really good. And even Keep Them Guessing said that's a good point to write it down so that you will have blinders on. So even if you really like them, instead of seeing the red flags. And I think this is so important because it's true. Like when we're dating, we're just so excited about dating. Somebody is interested in us. We're interested in them. They're showing us attention and we overlook because a lot of the times if you go back and ask any person in a relationship that did not work, did you see, like you said, those subtle signs? 9 times out of 10 people are always going to say, yeah, I saw some subtle signs, but I ignored them because of these butterflies, right? And also because our heart was so excited and jittery. And I just want to share this because I thought this was so important. I actually asked my life coach the same question today about how do you separate your heart from your intuition, and how do you get to a point where you can listen to your intuition more than you listen to your heart. And she was saying, or what she shared with me was that really your heart, or let me say, your intuition is like alerting you, right? Okay. Because, like you said, how do you feel when you're with that person? How do you feel? Can you feel like you could be yourself around this person and things like that? And basically, what she was saying is that sometimes our heart is attached to our trauma. And if we don't go back and fix our childhood trauma is always going to attract what we're used to. So even though your intuition is giving you the alert of like, hey, this isn't good for you, your heart/your trauma is so used to that toxicity, because it feeds off of it. It's medicine for you that your heart is pulling you back in to something that that your intuition and your body is alerting you that it's not good. And so that is why it is so extremely important to, like what you're saying, everything starts with self, and everything really starts with that childhood. Because if we don't understand that this little girl for me is rejection, if I don't go back and fix and heal this little girl who is afraid of rejection, then I am going to continue to attract men who are emotionally unavailable. And I'm going to always get rejected. And then I'm going to be in this cycle of afraid of rejection, attract an emotionally unavailable man, then I'm sad again, then okay, I go back out there. And the only way in which we can really truly stop that pattern and stop that cycle is if we allow ourselves to sit in the valley, like what you were saying, and feel those emotions. And here's what she even said today. She said, it's in the valley where we get our power. It's in the valley where we get our strength. It's in the valley that when we come out of the valley, we come out of it confident. We come out of it saying that, oh yeah, this guy is great, but this guy isn't great for me, because I now know how to go out within this interview process and make a list of things that aren't important to me, or make a list of things that are red flags to me that know that I don't want to attract, or I want to deal with in my relationship. And I think that that's the thing too, is that sometimes so many of us are operating subconsciously out of desperation. And when we operate out of desperation subconsciously, then it allows us to stay in situations that we know aren't healthy for us. And then again, that allows us not to trust our intuition. So I really think that all of this is beautiful, even as you were talking about the acronym, when we are gathering the data, really sitting with ourselves and asking those questions to allow us to get to a point to where, because like you said, if we want to stop the cycle, it's got to start with us. Because like you said, there's been so much that has been, really who we are has been created by what others have put into us. And as we come into adulthood, we now have the opportunity, we have the choice, we have the decision to be like, hey, I want to create something new. And sometimes creating something new and going on your own journey it's hard and it's scary, because it unravels and it uncovers so much within you. So I really thank you for even going through this. And you guys, we're going to get ready to call it quits. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. But, I'll let you, Melissa, give the closing words. And then if you wouldn't mind sharing with the people, like where they can find you, any things that you have coming up, and maybe share again where they can go and get the book.
Of course. I want to leave giving some encouraging words. All those who are listening under the sound of my voice, you are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yeah.
Even though you may go on this journey, whether through my book or whether through your own counselor or life coach, understand that God's created you the way he wants you to be. And life itself has shaped you, but in God's eyes, you're still fearfully and wonderfully made. He did not make a mistake. So in this journey, don't get so down on yourself that you become depressed. But have other feelings, but don't go deep down into depression. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Take yourself on this journey. Many people have taken themselves on this journey and have come out successful. And I want to let you know, the journey never stops. You always learn something new about yourself. You always learn something that you want to change about yourself, and that's okay. I'm here to validate you. That's okay.
Yeah.
So if you all liked what you heard today, listen, first of all, I got to say thank you for letting me come on. I had a wonderful conversation. We have to do this again, part 2, okay? And those who are enjoying everything, you can go to my website, www.likeItiswithmelissa.com. Again, that's www.likeItiswithmelissa.com. Check out everything that I'm doing, Preached Word. Check out my podcast. You can get it on all venues. It's called Like It Is with Melissa. So all the same, Like It Is with Melissa. On there, you'll get some great nuggets too. You'll hear some of the conversations that we had today, some of the things from my book, and then just life itself. But yeah, so follow me on all my social media, show me some love, and be a part of every family that I have.
Yes. Well, Melissa, I want to say thank you again for even just jumping on this live with me. I think that this has been an amazing live. And you guys, if you have received like such valuable information, do me a favor and put a fire in the chat right now, because we definitely want to appreciate Melissa. And Melissa, I totally forgot to because we talked about this, and you tell me if you're still willing, but we talked about, seeing people who were active in the chat, and you gracefully giving away one of your books, like a copy of one of your books.
Yeah, definitely.
That you guys we will choose a lucky guest to give one of her free books too. But for everyone else, if you are not following Melissa, do me a favor, go to her IG page, follow her IG page. She has amazing topics on relationships on her YouTube page, on her podcast. She is freaking amazing. And so you guys are ready to do the work. If you're ready to, dive finding your soulmate, remember that your first soulmate, your first love should always be you. And so, Melissa, I guess I'll talk to you off of the live, and we'll talk about who will be our special guest who won the book. I'll go back through the chats and figure out. I'll just randomly select someone. But I hope you all have enjoyed this. I'm thinking we got to come back with Lakeisha, like the three of us, the two of y'all, really go in on this relationship and choosing self. And I think that would be fire too.
Yes, it would. That would be awesome. I mean, I don't know if we might need 2 hours for that. Like, I'm just saying.
Have to do a day one and a day two, because that's gonna be fire. So we're gonna talk about that off camera. Yeah. We're gonna make that happen. So thank you again, Melissa. I really do appreciate you. This talk has been, I know we said 30 minutes, but it was just so jam-packed. I couldn't get So we will talk soon, and everybody, you guys have a good night. Thanks for tuning in.
Good night.
Bye.